G'day guys, how we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, November 10th, 2025. And as always, great to have you along. A little bit going on in the world of boxing at the moment. A little bit of a disappointing weekend, I thought, with the Erickson Lubin and Virgil Ortiz fight. But overall, we've got the Zoo Zarafa fight announced. I'm sure that'll be in the chat somewhere. It's going to be in Brisbane. Surprise, surprise. But there's so many other things going on and to look forward to as well. So as always, excuse me, I want all your comments, opinions, remarks, whatever it might be, in the chat. And as it says there, let's talk some boxing. And once again, thank you to everyone that tunes in every week on here and also that listens on Spotify. So shout out to you as well. All right, let's get into the chat. And looks like we've got a few in there at the moment. We'll start with Shadow Boxer. Who we got there, mate? Maybe after Tim gets through whoever he's fighting next, Lubin could be a good option in a crossroads fight for the both of them. Yeah, I did actually mention that in Walking Boxing this morning, Shadow Boxer, that I think that could be a good fight for Tim Tszyu, Erickson Lubin. They've sort of gone back and forth a little bit over the journey, haven't they? There's all sorts of sliding doors, especially when it comes to Tim Tszyu, I suppose. But one, I suppose, major sliding door that I'm pretty glad that was kept shut is Virgil Ortiz versus Tim Tszyu. Now, you remember last year when Tim lost to Sebastian Fundora, the first LA card, the Riyadh season card in LA with Terence Crawford and Madrimov. Tim Tszyu was supposed to fight Virgil Ortiz on that card and had to pull out because the cut on his head hadn't healed. I've just got to think how fortunate that was in hindsight. I know anything could have happened, but in my opinion, in hindsight, I think Tim Tszyu dodged a bullet from that one. But then again, having said that, he missed out on the Ortiz fight and walked straight into Murtazaliev, who probably did a bigger number on him than maybe what Virgil Ortiz might have done. So maybe he actually, he's probably walked into the worse fire than the Ortiz fight would have been. But anyway, that's again all sorts of sliding door moments. But I like that Shadow Boxer. I think it'd be a good fight. I think, look, Erickson Lubin's going to struggle to get back, and I think he's going to find himself pretty much exactly where Tim Tszyu is at the moment, on the outside looking in, saying, hey, what about me? And the top guys of the division are going to say, yeah, no, we're not interested in you guys yet. I think Tim Tszyu's got a lot more upside than Erickson Lubin. I think his time is now at an end. Where at least Tim Tszyu has got the potential to come back and at least get another crack at it. I'm not so sure Erickson Lubin has the same luxury, so we will see. All right, who we got next? I've been waiting for. Where are you, Big J? All right, what an absolute debacle that Tasman put on the other day with that terrible presser. Interested in your thoughts? As if that was no limit, you'd be livid. I would be livid, old mate. I can't, or Big J, I can't defend that. I mean, I commented on my episode on Walking Boxing. Look, I don't know the circumstances. This is the thing. I don't know the circumstances exactly what happened. Was it intentionally put outside on short? Well, I don't think it was even short notice, was it? Because it was advertised with plenty of time beforehand. But I don't know. Did they purposely put it outside? Was it a strategic thing to have it outside in the nice weather? I mean, I don't know. It ended up, well, it wasn't nice weather, was it? Because it was windy, it was overcast. You could barely hear what anyone was saying. Yeah, pretty hard to defend, Big J. Can't defend it. And I haven't spoken to Mick Francis for a few weeks, but I'd be interested to say to him, was that intentional? Did you actually intend to put it outside? I don't know why you would have a presser outside. I can understand sometimes photo opportunities. They might do it in front of the Harbour Bridge or whatever it might be and all the rest of it. But I don't know why you would do a press conference outside with microphones because, of course, even if it's not a bad day, you still get a little bit of wind and it really feeds through. And I think I said on the Walking Boxing episode the other day, it was frustrating because apart from a couple of grabs from the Stan social media post, there wasn't really anything from Tasman Fighters. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. Was it not streamed live? I looked everywhere, YouTube and on the social media page. I couldn't find a live telecast or a live broadcast of that press conference. Now, you look at when No Limit do it. No matter how they do it, it's always live. Now, I know No Limit, of course, have got the contract with Foxtel and Main Event, so they're always there with the full-on panel and they do it professionally, but I just don't know why you would intentionally put a press conference outside without the professional microphones I'm talking about. I know they had a few, like the mainstream media microphones were there, but there was no real production crew there. So, yeah, I don't know, Big J, but as I said, mate, I cannot defend that. But again, I'll be interested to hear what Mick Francis has to say, because it ended up being a debacle in many ways, because Jai Pattaya wasn't even there. There was obviously rumors, whatever it was, that his young daughter, I think, was sick. I don't know, but either way, I mean, wouldn't you just maybe just cancel it, or do it, or do the press conference via Zoom or whatever it might be? I know this has been done before many times, where they'll have and I think Tim Zoo's done it a few times when he's been in America. They'll have him up on the screen and they will have all the media there firing questions at him, or they have like a host and they'll pick the ones they want to fire questions at him. So why not just do that if Jai couldn't get there? But they have Justice Honey there, who speaks pretty well, I'll say, and he's the co-main event. But Paul Fleming, I'm not quite sure he really hit the mark. Good guy, Paul Fleming, but I'm not sure really the media there would have been happy with what they were presented as far as Justice and Paul Fleming go. So anyway, we will see. Still with Big J, why not just reschedule to where Jai can attend? And furthermore, why have a presser in Sydney for a fight announced on the Gold Coast? Yeah, good call. And then have it outside where the sound was terrible. Yeah, it was not good. But yeah, you're right. I think the second that Jai Pattaya said, look, I can't make it, maybe they just should have said to everybody, hey, look, we're going to reschedule, or as I said, do it by Zoom or whatever. Just cancel the whole thing. If Justice Honey's gone down there for the press conference, well, so be it. Well, he's got to fly back. It's like, an hour flight. It's not a big deal for him. Or worse yet, go inside and have a sit down with Justice Honey and Paul Fleming and do it properly. I don't know, Big J. I don't know the facts behind it, but I'd be staggered if it was an intentional decision to have it how they had it. And I did see a bit of Ted Kofi on there as well. I couldn't understand what he was saying. Mick, I couldn't really hear what he was saying either. Justice was okay, but yeah, not great there, Big J. And I don't know, that's a good question. Why have it in Sydney when the fight's on the Gold Coast? I'm surprised they got any media there at all. Would have thought they would have said, yeah, no, it's a Gold Coast event, let them cover it. I don't know, unless Channel 9 and 7 or whoever else were there on behalf of the Gold Coast constituents, if that's the case. So Channel 9 in Sydney was there on behalf of Channel 9 in Brisbane. I don't know, but it's a good question, Big J. I'm sure you've covered it, have you, on your channel? Let us know. Big J again, got a couple there. Ortiz didn't look that great yesterday, more so that Lubin is shot. Oh, geez, Big J, I know in hindsight it's easy to say that, but geez, in the lead up to the fight, a lot of people gave Lubin a pretty good shot. Now, I didn't pick him to win, but I thought he might actually give a good account of himself. I'm not sure how you can't say Ortiz didn't look great, Big J. I mean, it's okay to say maybe Lubin looked shot, but did he? Looking at a shot fighter is when you see him over X amount of rounds, and you can say, oh, no, his timing's way off. He's just missing the mark. He can't pull the trigger. He looks cemented to the canvas. That's when you look like a fighter's shot. Like Canelo looked shot against Crawford because we saw him over 12 rounds. I'm not so sure you could say that Lubin looked shot when the fight was over like that. It was like everything was going okay, and then Ortiz ramped into fifth gear for about 10 seconds and the fight was over. So I'm not sure you could really say that Lubin looked shot. In hindsight, you could probably say he was shot because it only lasted 2 rounds. I just think it was a matter of Ortiz just putting the foot down and landing those shots, and Lubin not fighting a smart fight and just took the punches and got himself knocked out or staggered or whatever it was. But Ortiz, I thought he looked fantastic, Big J. I don't know. Well, I would say that Boots Ennis, I mean, you could probably say the same thing. I mean, did he not look great? I mean, he looked awesome. But you can't get any idea of really either of them because it's such a small body of work. 1 round for one, 2 rounds for the other. So, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, Big J. I thought Ortiz did look great for the round and a half that we saw him, and I don't think you can say that Lubin was shot just because he got blown out in two rounds. I thought before that he just looked okay, as normal. So, all right. Who we got? Asbot, was it? Where are we? I'll try and find your comment there. There it is. Not surprised Ortiz walked through Lubin. 154 is stacked. Agree. Need to see Fundora Ortiz before Boots Fundora. Buckram would be epic also. P.S. Tim really needs to avoid these guys for a while. Well, I will say that straight away as well, but I think Tim really needs to get a couple of fights under his belt, I would think, before he even thinks about stepping up anywhere near these guys, because from what I saw yesterday, Tim would not last very long, I don't think, with Virgil Ortiz. I don't think he'd last very long with Boots Ennis either. We've seen what Fundora could do to him. We've seen what Murtazalia could do to him, or did do to him. So, I don't know. I suppose it's the mystery, Asbot. What happens now with Tim? Because the Tims who prior to changing trainers, and we haven't seen anybody at work yet as far as that goes, would not last more than a few rounds with any of those guys. I wouldn't have thought. Ortiz and Boots is who I'm talking about. So maybe even Charlo as well if he ever comes back. So is Pedro Diaz going to be able to make as many adjustments and changes and improvements that he needs to make in such a short time? I'm not so sure. I'm a bit of a skeptic, Asbot. I'm not sure from what I've seen Tim in the last 2 years, or from Tim in the last 2 years, and what I've seen from these other top guys, whether Tim will ever get anywhere near these guys. I hope I'm wrong, but you've got to look at it for what it is. These are some A-grade fighters, and unfortunately Tim's sort of shown that he's not really at the level. But we'll see what happens once Pedro Diaz gets his claws into him and he gets a fight or two under his belt. But not surprised he walked through him. I was not surprised that he stopped him, Asbot, but I was surprised at how easy he did it. But then again, having looked at the strategy that Lubin employed as far as just sitting on the ropes and having his hand up here, and Ortiz pulled the glove down and then went over the top, it wasn't a great strategy by Lubin, I wouldn't have thought. But I did comment, that's what I'm assuming you're referencing there, is that I did say that I think that Ortiz maybe should target Fundora next, get that WBC belt if he can, still a very, very tough fight, and then look to Boots Ennis after that. I just think it needs to gather a bit more momentum, especially have a title at stake. And an interim title doesn't count, by the way. I can't believe he'd even wear that around, an interim title. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Wearing around an interim world title belt. They'd just be like, hey, thanks WBC. I really appreciate it that you've put me as interim champion, but there's no way I'm going to wear it around like I'm the real deal. I know the WBC would probably require him to. They want their photos and put the T-shirt and hat on and all that sort of stuff. But it'd be like, yeah, there's your photo op. Now get this belt out of here. That's embarrassing. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Drew Keeley, what do you got there, mate? Well done to Virgil Ortiz, but I must say I was greatly disappointed and bewildered how Lubin just stood there on the ropes and offered himself up to Ortiz like a Christmas turkey. 100%, Drew. That's what I was saying. Just stood on the rope, or just laid on the ropes almost, and just let Virgil Ortiz go to town. And the thing is, I don't think Ortiz was really looking to get Erickson Lubin out of there. I think he was more so just, well, here's my opportunity, I'll do my thing. And all of a sudden, it's like, all right, well, if he's just going to stand there, I'm just going to tee off. And that's what he did. So he got him out of there as he set out to do, and that's history. Now Lubin's really got to consider where he's at. But I'm with you there, mate. It was like a Christmas turkey, wasn't it? He just laid there and just waited to be stopped. All right, we've got Eminem in the chat. Where are we? If I can find you there. All right, yeah. I think I got you there, mate. Yeah, Nikita Zarafa will be in Brisbane. No real surprise there. Yeah, well, they've obviously put up the most money. Gold Coast was an option there for a while. Don't know what happened, but I think it's good. I like the poster too. Bad Blood looked like a really good poster the way they've made it up there. So we're off to a good start with the promotion. I think we just need a better press conference when they announce the undercard and all that sort of stuff. And now they've actually got the proper poster, all that done. I would say that they'll hold a press conference probably the next sort of week or so and announce it properly, I would think. All right, Adam Bennett, where are you? Adam, Ortiz is one of my favourite fighters to watch. He puts everything into his punches. Who at 154 beats him, in your opinion? I'm not sure anyone does, Adam. I think if anyone can, it's definitely Boots Ennis. Should be a great fight. I'm going to go for Ortiz as it stands now because I just think I'm normally... I think I've said on here before, in a normal fight between an African-American and a Mexican fighter, the African-American fighter always just seems to be better on, or quicker on the feet, quicker with the hands. And you see a lot of the African-American fighters will beat the Mexican fighters just based on the way they fight. The reason I'm going to go for Virgil Ortiz at this stage, because Ortiz is very quick with his hands and pretty quick with his feet as well. So he sort of differs from a lot of Mexican fighters out there. So that's why I give him more than a better than average chance of beating Boots Ennis. I think his work rate, Boots Ennis will have to work hard. He normally does anyway. He fights at a really good pace, Boots Ennis, and has got pretty good power as well. I just think it's going to be an unbelievable fight, back and forth. I think both guys will have their moments. I've just got a gut feeling at this stage that Ortiz will just be able to dig a little bit deeper and in those later rounds be able to pull out maybe a decision, I think, over Boots Ennis. But I think it will be a fantastic fight. So, yeah, looking forward to that if and when it does happen. I'm sure it will happen. It's just a matter of when. All right, Tony. How are you, Tony? I watched David Benavides being interviewed a few days ago, and he was polite and very respectful. Who knew? I didn't see that, Tony. Was he interviewed? Yeah, well, that'd be a first, Tony, because normally he is very, not very polite, I suppose would be the best word. Not great etiquette from David Benavides. And I don't know why he has to be that way. I know a lot of fighters swear and carry on, but he does it in front of kids, and he's just a very disrespectful man, which surprises me because it looks like if you're part of his team, or I'm assuming by that interview, he'd actually been a nice guy to sit down with and actually have a conversation with. It's only when he gets the camera or something in front of his face. But I just don't think he needs to be that way. I think he just has to be himself. Maybe he is that way in real life. I don't know. But I've just got a feeling outside of the spotlight, he'd be pretty much a family man and pretty respectful of those around him. But yeah, so far, Tony, I'll have to check out that interview. I haven't seen anything that will change my mind that he's can be a bit of a dick sometimes, if I'm being honest. But anyway, Rayleigh Frame. Where are you, Rayleigh? How are you there? Evening all. Well done to Virgil. I think Virgil landed a left to the back of Lubin's head just before he was caught on the ropes in second round, about 2 minutes in. Okay. I'll have to have a look at that, Rayleigh, because, look, I must admit, when the fight was stopped, I actually thought it was a premature stoppage. It happened so quickly. It was like, okay, he's a little bit rocked. And then it was just an avalanche of punches, and it looked like the referee just panicked and jumped in. But then, of course, you see the replay, and you can see that he was done. He was in a lot of trouble, almost out on his feet. So what do you say there? Landed left to the back of Lubin's head. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I didn't see that at the time. But either way, look, I will take my hat off to the referee, by the way. Fantastic stoppage. Jumped in right at the exact time, I think. He might have got off a shot or two, maybe as he was jumping in, but I don't think he could have got in there any earlier or later. I think he was spot on. So a great job by the referee. But I will check that out, Rayleigh. Thanks for pointing that out. Jason James, how are you? Jason, thanks for joining in. I think I'm up to date almost. Where are we? Big J. All right. Change of subject. What the hell is with those wannabe strippers dancing around the ring at the Sam LaBruna show? Completely unnecessary. Keep that stuff out of the boxing ring. I see Jazzy had another sook. Yeah, well, you're right. She did have another sook, Big J. Yeah, I'm not a real fan of the dancing girls, but look, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really one that likes a lot of entertainment in between fights. I get that. I don't like it. I'm traditionalist like you look like you are. Excuse me. Where, hey, just get another fight out there, will you? Just forget about this crap. I didn't mind the Australian Idol winner or whatever he was. I didn't like the fact he was in the ring singing because we just wanted to get on with the fights. But I didn't mind the song. If you remember Barry Michael versus Lester Ellis, this time I'm playing to win by John Farnham. Great song, really builds up the atmosphere. So that was good to sort of have it played. But the crowd was, you could tell they were pretty much, mate, get out. Let's get on with the fights here. But I'm with you there, BJ. But look, normally I definitely agree. But maybe they just have him as like fillers, I suppose. There wasn't that much time in between fights, I didn't think. So, look, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't like it, but I get why they sort of throw him out there. It's just a little addition to the night to try and get people pepped up. The one thing I didn't like, Big J, and it needs to be outlawed, stop playing Sweet Caroline. I'm sick of it. I'm over it, okay? Every single sporting event in the world, well, let's get everyone up and about. Oh, geez, let's play Sweet Caroline. I'm sick of it. They've ruined the song for me. I don't want to hear it played. And to actually take a time out of the show to have it penciled in as part of the entertainment. At this particular time, we're going to play Sweet Caroline and get everyone about. I know I'm a bit of a killjoy here, guys, but I am sick of it. I am over it. Every single fight night, Sweet Bloody Caroline. So please, enough. Okay? And I can never listen to it ever again. If it's on the radio now, I turn it off. All right. Drew, someone in a comment section called me a quote-unquote casual for criticising Lubin's rope-a-dope strategy. You might get away with it against others, but against Ortiz, it's suicide. Well, you're definitely not a casual, Drew, because I think the same thing. It's one thing to do. Let's take Floyd Mayweather for an example. He would get on the ropes, and you see it many times, either on the ropes or in the corner, and he would make them come to him, and he would get the guard nice and high. He would set them up. He would time them, all that sort of stuff. He did it right. Lubin didn't do it right. To stand on the ropes, in the cowboy stance, by the way, so not in your actual stance where you can actually properly counter. The cowboy stance is when you just side on. And with just the hands up here that were easily just pulled down by Lubin. Silly strategy, Drew. It's not a bad thing if you're a Floyd Mayweather or someone like that, or a Terence Crawford or someone like that who can actually use that to draw the opponent in and make them counter or whatever it might be, then that's fine. But Erickson Lubin is not Terence Crawford and he's not Floyd Mayweather. It was a silly strategy, Drew. And I think your what do you say there? It was criticising for the strategy. Your criticism is justified by the fact that Lubin was blown out of there as soon as he was standing on the ropes by Ortiz. So your comment's actually been justified, Drew. So don't take that. It's actually the other person. It's probably the casual mate who just doesn't know any better. Don't get too stressed about boxing people in the comments chats there, though, Drew, or anyone else out there. There's a lot of people out there that just make me just scratch my head and want to make me headbutt the desk, I can tell you. But I don't comment for that exact reason. You just, you can't win. All right. I'll try and get to, I think I'm up to date now after those first few comments. Okay, I think I'm there. Cal, how are you, Cal? Loved Monday nights. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Glenn, Ortiz looked great. Someone needs glasses. Well, let's just, it's a little bit early for the Big J pylon, but hey, I'm sure Big J wouldn't care less about it. But I'm with you, Glenn. I actually thought he looked fantastic. I think, like Boots Ennis a couple of weeks before him, I just thought when the opportunity came, it was just bang, 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 all over, and that's what very, very good fighters do. And he did exactly what he had to do. I don't think he could have looked any more impressive. But as I said before to Big J, I don't think Lubin was shot. It's just one of those things. Lubin made a terrible decision to take that game plan in against Ortiz, and maybe it wasn't even a game plan. Maybe it was just on the spur of the moment. He was like, all right, well, I'll just sit here and take a few and get my eye in, and before he knew it, Ortiz had nailed him and it was all over. It just happens. I don't think it was a matter of Ortiz or Lubin. It's just one of those circumstances where circumstances happened and Ortiz got the stoppage. It is what it is. All right. Explicit GGs, is it? Okay. I know I'm probably late to the party, but what do you think of Tim Sun Tzu? Well, he sounds like someone from Korea or somewhere explicit. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind. Tim Sun Tzu. Nah, I don't like it explicit. I'm sorry, mate. I don't want to rain on your parade. I don't like sun. What did I say the other day that someone sent me? It's a Tsunami. That, for me, is the best. Tim the Tsunami Zoo. Love it. Love that one. Just ties in really well. I'm not a fan of Phoenix. I'll call him the Phoenix if that's what he wants. That's fine. But I'm not a fan of Tim the Phoenix, or is it Phoenix Tim or whatever the hell it is? I don't know. Terrible Tim would have been pretty good. Terrible Tim Zoo. I don't mind that. But, yeah, I'm sorry, explicit. I'm not a fan of Tim Sun Tzu. It sounds like, yeah, he's from Korea or not Japan or China or somewhere. I don't know. All right, yeah, I've been waiting for this one. Andrew Hunt's KO of Fathy is KO of the year. Also keen to see more of Andrew Hunt. Good fighter. He's a very good fighter, Eminem. I was surprised at the way he went about it the other night, though. I think I said walking boxing the other day after the fights that when I saw this fight announced, I thought, geez, that's a big gamble from Fathy. You know, I know Billy Gibbs got a lot of faith in him and would probably back him to probably beat anyone in Australia. There's been talk about him wanting to fight Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zarafa and all the others. But I must admit, as I said, when I saw it announced or on Boxrec, I thought, geez, that's a risky fight, because the Andrew Hunt I can remember from about 5 or 6 years ago was a very, very good fighter. But I was concerned that he only had, I think, the one fight before this fight. I thought, yeah, maybe Fathy's camp knows something that I don't. But I tell you what, that first couple of rounds, I thought, geez, if this Andrew Hunt stays this way for the rest of the fight, he's going to win this fight by a mile. And I thought he made Fathy look very, very ordinary. And I will say, too, I've got a feeling that Fathy totally underrated Andrew Hunt. I don't think he knew anything about him. I don't think he respected anything about him. I thought he'd just think, oh, well, I'll just go in there and wipe this guy out like I have all these other guys I fought, and didn't expect to get a very, very good fighter in front of him, a really slick southpaw who could punch. And I think by the time he found out it was too late, Eminem, that left hand, oh my God, what a punch. Just perfectly timed, on the button. Fathy was out before he even knew what had gone on. Found himself face first on the floor. And you know he's out cold with the way the arms sort of land. Looked like, like there should have been a chalk outline around him the way he landed. It wasn't great. I'm just glad that he's okay. That's the main thing. And all this aside, you just obviously hope the fighter's okay, and by all accounts he was. But Andrew Hunt, where to from here? I did say the other day that I think that Nikita Tszyu should probably at this stage probably keep away from someone like Andrew Hunt. Not to say he couldn't beat Andrew Hunt. I just don't think he needs the risk. He's taking a risk against Michael Zarafa, but there's a lot of benefits to come out of that. More world rankings, obviously more money, big fights, more prestige, more everything basically. Honor on for the name, the Tszyu name, all that sort of stuff. And Andrew Hunt would represent a lot of risk for not too much reward. And I reckon Glenn Rushton, who trains Andrew Hunt, would love the chance to get a bit of revenge on the Tszyu after Jeff Horn and Ben Horn, wouldn't he? So, but unbelievable knockout, Eminem, and he's a fighter, that's for sure. He's Andrew Hunt. G'day, Richard. How you doing there, mate? Welcome to the show. Glenn, anyone see Jess Messina working out with Fennick over the weekend? She's a beast. Fearsome body shots, and our next female world champion, in my opinion. I didn't see the footage, Glenn, but I have seen a fair bit of Jess Messina in the past. Yeah, she's tough. She's hard. She can punch. She's good fighter. I'm yet to be convinced that she's maybe our next world champion. But geez, with someone like Fennick helping her out, that's obviously helps, doesn't it? But I've sort of liked what I've seen so far from Jess Messina, and who knows, is she a welterweight or something? I think she is. I'm not quite sure. I haven't got a box rec up there, but I don't think she's one of those really lighter weight fighters. But if she's working with Jeff Fennick, Glenn, you can be assured that he's working on that sort of stuff. So I'll keep an eye out for her. But I have seen her in the past, and she's a good fighter. I've seen a lot of her as an amateur too. Cal, bottom line, Tim needs to be able to take a hit and suck it up. Seems he doesn't like to be hit, hands up then. To be hit, hands up then. Well, look, Cal, I think the thing is with Tim, very, very good on the offensive, not so much on the defensive. And that's been his biggest flaw, if you ask me. If you look at the fights where he's been hurt or under the pump, no defensive skills whatsoever. It's just arms and legs everywhere. There's nothing. There's no defensive abilities that come into it, or strategy, whatever it might be. It's almost like his body's just saying every man for himself. Doesn't really know how to tie up, doesn't really know how to be evasive to get out of range. I mean, geez, I think he got a lot of pats on the back for the Bakram Murtazalia fight for getting up and trying to go after Murtazalia. I actually thought the opposite. I thought, Tim, what are you doing? This is the time, mate, where you get on your bike. No one cares that you're a warrior. No one cares that you're going to go out on your shield. No one cares about that. Everyone just wants to, like me, looking at the fight from back in Australia, I can assure you, Tim, everyone wants you to get on your friggin' bike and move. That's what we want. We don't want you to go after Murtazalia. And I know maybe at that stage as well, instinct kicked in. His probably head was spinning. He didn't know what the hell was going on. It was just instinct just to try and fight back, which is admirable. It really is. But he desperately needs some defensive work, Cal, because that's where he falls down the most defensively. Offensively, very, very good. Throws great combinations, very well balanced. can punch somewhat, I suppose, but more of an accumulation puncher. But good, very, very good natural boxing technique. But unfortunately, when he's under the pump or hurt or rocked, whatever it might be, it all goes out the window and he just becomes just a desperate fighter who's just a sitting duck. And we've seen it in 2 of those fights. The 2 knockout losses against Fundora and Murtazalyov. He had no idea what to do when he was hurt. So the unfortunate thing here is, Cal, is that no matter how much Pedro Diaz and everyone else works on those flaws, you can't sort of help what your natural instinct is to do. Now, they can obviously teach him how to move his head a bit more, or maybe the gloves in a different position and all the rest of it, but it's very, very hard to teach someone what to do when they're hurt. Maybe there's some little things they can put in there, but what does he do? What does he go back to instinctively to what he's done in the past? And that's just be desperate and just, well, not, I was just going to say trying to grasp and hold. He doesn't do that. That's the problem. So, yeah, he's got some work to do, but that's his biggest flaw, Cal, defensively. And unless he can improve defensively, not just in the normal aspects of the fight, but also when he's hurt. I don't know how you simulate that, by the way. What do you give him a clip across the head and try and rattle him and then put him under the pump? I don't know. Actually, maybe a good tactic. I just sort of thought of it now. Maybe they could spin him around in a circle 10 times and then say, right, now you got to defend. Maybe that's a good idea because that would sort of simulate what happens when you're hurt. I don't know. But in my opinion, Cal, unless he can fix up those deficiencies, I don't see him coming back. I hope I'm wrong, and I'm a little bit of a killjoy, as I said before, but at 30 years of age, I'm not sure a trainer can just flick the switch and fix a fighter in the space of a couple of months. I just can't see it. Unless he's matched properly. Look, he'll probably look great, by the way. His first couple of fights I match him up with, they'll be picked very, very carefully. And I've got no doubt he'll look good. We'll all be talking about what improvements Pedro Diaz has done and how great Tim looks, and this time he's back. But I'm going to withhold my judgment until I see Tim in with an A, well, not even an A grade, even a B+ fighter, and just to see how he reacts when he's under the pump again and it's not all going his own way. That's when when my judgment will be made on Tim Tszyu. Is he actually back or not? So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong about everything, but I just think it's very, very hard, as I say, for a leopard to change their spots or tiger to change their stripes, whatever the hell it is. But we'll see. All right, Eminem, I don't get the Tasman stand thing. That's going to hide Jai even more behind the paywall. Yes, Eminem. So, and not just, look, I've had a lot of people message me and I've talked to as well saying they're not going to get stand. They just refuse to, with on top of all these other apps. So the first thing they've got, now I don't know, I haven't talked to Mick Francis about this, by the way, and I know the reason he's left the zone. That's because they didn't put their hand in the pocket and invest 1 cent in the production. So if everyone's wondering, oh, geez, why would you leave the zone to go to stand? That's the reason. With them, like he was fully expected to, like Sam LeBruna would have been the other night as well, fully expected to fund the whole production. All DAZN would do is actually say, yeah, we'll put it on. We'll take the money for the pay-per-view, split the money with you, but all the production is on you, which is ridiculous. And on top of all this stuff with all the ultimate package and all this bullshit they're going on with at the moment, support for DAZN is going to fall away really, really quick. I mean, let's just say a Jaya Pataya fight, for instance. Now, I don't know, maybe they get 10,000 pay-per-views. I don't know. I don't think they'd get that many, but let's say they did. No, well, they are $40 each. I'll do the sums and all this. What's that? 400 grand, isn't it? Unless I forgot a zero. $40 times, say, 10,000. All right, $400,000. Okay, which sounds great, but DAZN would probably take half of that, so it leaves you 200 grand. And speaking to Mick, he said if you do the production right, and you've got to get it right because again, DAZN won't show it unless the production is A1. He said you could be up for 150K if it's done right. So yeah, that's all great. It's all well and good. I'm making 50 grand, maybe 100 grand out of the pay-per-view, plus the gate. Geez, if you get 5,000 people there at an average of, what's the average ticket worth? $150 or something? I don't know. I've got no idea, but 5,000. So there's, that's 750. That's great. So you might have 800, 850 to play with. You still got to pay the main event fighters. Jai's probably on a 250, 300 grand, probably more. Plus the undercard and fights, a combination, all of a sudden you're not making any money. So this is the way it works. So, and then the other night, I'm like, no doubt that Sam Labruna would have been have to have paid. It wouldn't have been to the probably level of a pay-per-view like a Jai Patai fight, but that still could have cost him 50 to 60 or even 70 grand to do the production right, and DAZN wouldn't have put the hand in the pocket at all. So all that aside, now you got the stand thing. Now they're going to probably expect the same thing. I don't know whether they put a little bit of money back into the production. I don't know. But people are going to have to fork out for it. I'm with you there, Eminem. They're going to hide even more because people like Stan. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to get Stan. Unless you can actually just pay for the pay-per-view yourself without being a subscriber. Maybe that will do it. But even then, you're on Stan. That's Stan. Probably the most least known app of all the streaming services. So, yeah, I don't get it, Eminem. I really don't. I understand from Mick's point of view, he's just trying to do the best he can for his promotion. But, you know, I reckon I spoke to Mick about this, and I'm pretty sure he said that in a perfect world, he wouldn't even have any of it on streaming. They're too hard to deal with, all these guys. But the problem is, of course, you can't have a world title fight that's not televised anywhere on Foxtel or Main Event or a streaming app. So I think he felt probably obliged that he had to do it. And he probably out of principle said, well, DAZN, you can stick it up your ass and we'll give it to Stan, who might have come to the party to put in as well. I don't know. But you're right, Eminem. It's not going to be great for his profile, I don't think. I hope I'm wrong. But look, the other day I did say on Walking Boxing, the Herald Sun, after I don't think they've had one, this is Melbourne's major newspaper, by the way, have not had one article about Jai's fight. The other day, not a picture, not an article, nothing. It's been almost a week since the Herald Sun have put anything on their boxing MMA page. And that was the announcement of the brawling stuff. That was the last post or the last story they had. Peter Bedell actually wrote that story. Not a story since in the Herald Sun, especially about Jai Pattaya. So he's got some work to do, Eminem. And I'll be honest, I think the things will just continue. Jai will be more well known overseas than what he is in Australia. It'll still be all about the No Limit fighters. That's just the way it is here in Australia, mate. All the media and Foxtel Main Event are all over No Limit fighters, and unfortunately, Jai is not a No Limit fighter, and it's just going to continue. I would have thought maybe, I don't want to continue on here, guys. I'm probably rambling a little bit here, but that maybe Mick could give the boys at No Limit a call. I know it's probably a bit frosty to say, well, can we work something out where Jai is on Foxtel or Main Event? He has to be, doesn't he? Surely. This is our only male world champion. And he's going to be on Stan. Stan, of all things. Anyway, we'll move on. I'll be here all night. Kane, how are you, Kane? How's it going? Great show with D-Style. Thanks, mate. Yeah, that's right. I forgot that you tuned in today. If you didn't see that, I was on the D-Style show. It used to be the round table. Now it's just the D-Style show, I think. That was really good, Kane. I really enjoy talking to D-Style because he knows his stuff. Really passionate about boxing and, more importantly, knows what he's talking about. So I love getting on there and having a chat with him. And it's a little bit different when it's just the two of us. I'm used to being on there with about 5 others. But no, I really enjoy getting on there with D-Style when I can. Kane, he's a good guy and he puts a lot into his channel and delivers really good content. All right, Ray Lee. I don't think Virgil will fight Boots next. It will be a great fight to see, but maybe Virgil could fight Fundora or Xander Zayas for a belt first, but they both have fights lined up early next year. Yeah, well, Fundora is obviously fighting Thurman. Zayas is going to fight Barrow. I think that's how you pronounce it. But I'm with you. I said before, Ray Lee, that would be my sort of roadmap as well, would be for Virgil to fight Fundora and then maybe fight Boots at the end of next year. So if Fundora fights Thurman, let's say it's January, February, whatever it might be. Then Virgil and Fundora fight, say, in June or July, and then and Boots in the meantime could maybe fight one of these top guys. Maybe he could fight Charlo or one of those types of guys. Murtazaliev might want to fight, although he's got the Josh Kelly fight coming up as well. And then the end of 2026, it's whoever comes out of those fights. It mightn't even be Virgil. Fundora is a tough egg to crack. So he knows it could be Fundora and Ennis or Fundora and Murtazaliev as the biggest fight at 154. Only talking about that fight now. I mean, so much to play out in the 154-pound division. So don't sleep on Fundora. I think he's improved a hell of a lot. And watching him fight Tim, I watched some highlights the other day, and watching him beat Lubin, and he's not the most graceful guy, Fundora, but he's so awkward. I know he's got the height and reach, but just the way he fights, he's always got something in your face, always. And when you're trying to get out of the road of those long arms, good luck with that. Excuse me there. All right. Drew, appreciate the take on letting Ortiz and Boots marinate in the fight. Despite not being for a belt, I respectfully disagree. That's cool, Drew. Enough of these potential mouth-watering fights get burnt along the way. Yeah, no, you're right, Drew. Look, and that is always the danger. That is always the danger that Ortiz and Boots, it might be Boots gets upset in his next fight, or Ortiz gets upset. It could happen. I get that. But I just think it's good in this day and age. You actually got two of these types of guys who are itching to fight each other, and that's great. I suppose I've just got my old school hat on here, Drew. I like a fight to be at its peak. And you're right, mate. We don't want to let it get to the point where maybe it just drags on and on and on. In 3 or 4 years' time, it still hasn't happened, and we've been asking for it. So maybe take it while it's there. I get that, but look, it did say too, Drew. If it happens next, I'll be over the moon. Fantastic. It'd be great to have it. I'm just probably thinking, as far as the optimal time to have it, I just think it'd be better if there was a world title at stake. And the fact that Boots has had one meaningless fight at 154, still a relatively unknown to the general population out there, I suppose. Ortiz has probably got more of a following from where he's from. Sure, Boots is big in Philadelphia, but outside Philadelphia, unless you're hardcore, I don't think a lot of sort of casual fans would know too much about Boots. I'd know of him, but not really to the point where they'd be just itching to throw the money at a pay-per-view. Ortiz, as I said, will be more popular where he's from, I would think, in Texas. But yeah, I would prefer a belt, Drew, and I'd prefer it to marinate, like you said there, for another year or so. But I'm with you there. If it happens next, hey, I'll be happy as well. Make no mistake about that. Eminem, Ben Hussein back again December 11th. Yeah, I did hear that, Eminem. That's good. Good to have him back. He can cause some issues at 154 on the domestic level, that's for sure. He loves the social media too, doesn't he, Ben? So can we get a Ben Hussein and maybe a Brock Jarvis fight? I think I'd love that fight. That'd be fantastic. For a good domestic scrap. I think it'd be great. Fredo for life. Virgil Ortiz, Errol Spence in Jerry Jones' stadium in Texas. It will be huge. Sadly, I bet that's next. Well, is it next, Fredo? I mean, I don't know. I'd be surprised if we see Errol Spence back again. It's been 2.5 years. You talk about looking shot. He looked totally shot against Terence Crawford. He just has his habit of doing that, doesn't he, Terence? But you're right. I think the fight will be massive in Texas, and maybe that could happen, Fredo. I just think if Virgil is going to fight anyone next besides Boots, it's going to be Fundora. That's my spin on it. Maybe, I suppose, Errol Spence, but Errol Spence has got to show he's back. He's got to show, like, is he even training? I have seen a little bit of footage along the lines, but nothing serious. Is he going to be back or not? Is he just dipping the toe in the water if he's just trying to keep his name in there? I don't know, but I want to see something from Errol Spence to make sure, or to show us that he's fair income, because I haven't seen anything yet. And I must admit, after what I saw yesterday, I would really fear for Errol Spence's health. Great fight for the stadium there, Fredo. It'd be awesome for Texas and that stadium and everyone else. But geez, I just shudder to think what Virgil Ortiz would do to Errol Spence. I think it'd be over in a couple of rounds, if I'm being honest. Rayleigh, it would probably be more dollars or bigger fight for Virgil versus Boots if title was on the line. Yeah, to some extent, Rayleigh. I mean, look, as I said before, I'd like to have a title on the line, but it's not the be-all and end-all. I just want it to marinate, as we said before, Drew, to marinate a little bit more, because I just reckon it could be bigger than what it's going to be. Don't know. I'm not totally in favour of it has to be a title. I would prefer a title to be on the line. It's not the be-all and end-all as such. I'm more about it just making the fight at its peak. That's probably what I'm looking at. A lot of big fights having their titles on the line. Mayweather-Pacquiao didn't have a title on the line. I know that's probably a different kettle of fish and about 20 times bigger than what this fight will be. But, yeah, I don't think it's absolutely essential. If it's a big fight, it's a big fight. But I would prefer to have a title on the line. I just think if Virgil could fight Fundora. Boots could fight somebody else. I just think in a year's time it would be a lot bigger. But as Drew said, maybe just take it while it's there, and who cares? They can always fight again down the track, but just let's get it happening while we can. Oscar and Eddie seem pretty intent on it making it happen, don't they? Just a quick one. Who do you think was the most excited about their fighters win? Eddie when Boots won, or Oscar when Virgil won? I think I've still got to go with Eddie. He looked like he was going to explode in the ring after that fight, didn't he? And he had the camera up, and you could see the vein popping out of his head. He was in those the nighttime dreams you sometimes have. That's where he was. But Oscar was a little bit more controlled, but you could just see just bursting he was, Oscar. Richard, how do you rate Terramona? Terramona, I have no idea. I'll go back to you in a second, Glenn. Sorry about that. I have no idea, to be honest, Richard, because he hasn't fought anybody with a pulse. On the surface, he looks great, doesn't he? I mean, he looks fantastic. But so did Jazzy Parr, so did Monir Fathi. You know, they all look great when the opponents are horrendous. I think from what I've seen of him, I think he could be a real force in the heavyweight division. I really do. I think he could be up there with all the best heavyweights in the world in a year or two. But I don't know, Richard. He looks like he could be potentially a B+ or an A- or something like that as a fighter. But at the moment, your guess is as good as mine, because I cannot make a judgment on someone that hasn't fought anybody that can literally fight back. So, and Mick, if you're watching there, mate, let's get him in with someone that can actually put their hands up there. Now, he's on the card, isn't he? The Tasman card. I just want to quickly, there it is. It's come right up there. Terramona versus Montez. So I don't know much about Montez. So what do we got? 7 fights on that card. Maloney, Gomez, Marnie and Hill, Terramona, Montez, Wiley, Fleming, McIntyre, Morris, Huni, Latelli, and Opataya, Shinkara. And there might actually be a few more that's on there as well that weren't actually listed. I reckon was there 10 fights, I think, in total that we saw. But mate, on the surface, he definitely looks like he's going to be an elite heavyweight. But until he actually fights someone with a pulse, the jury's out. All right, sorry, Glenn, I missed your comment there. I think the Boots and Virgil talk is just a bit of fluff to get attention. They'll take another fight or two before they fight with a belt or two at stake. Well, you think that with 2 seasoned campaigners like Hearn and De La Hoya, that's what they'd be thinking, Glenn. Let's make this fight even bigger. Let's start the talk now, which is, when you think about it, it's actually quite smart. Let's talk all this, like you say, fluff. Let's get them in the ring together, do all this sort of stuff. Then maybe get them to fight someone else. We'll invent an excuse or something. Get them to fight someone else. Get a title, maybe at least one, maybe one each. And let's just keep the banter going back and forth, keep the narrative going, keep the storyline going, and then look to do it in another 12 to 18 months, maybe. Especially someone like Oscar. He's been there and done it, not just as a promoter, but obviously also as a fighter. So he knows the art of letting a fight, as I've said a few times, marinate over the journey till it's at its point, at its peak. So either way, Glenn, I don't care whether it's in 12 or 18 months or it's next. I don't care. I'm with you. I'd prefer to have a title on the line and maybe another 12 months under the belt. We'll see. Eminem, another tomato can for Terramona, December 6th. Yeah, I don't really know much about him. Let me just bring up. I think I did this, didn't I, actually? Did I look at his opponent? I'll just put in the card and see what comes up, and we'll get a little bit of feedback on Mr. Montez. All right, I'll put... Where's the card? All right. So I'm looking at the card. So Austin Akuso is also on that card. Taylor Jensen on that card. I like Taylor Jensen. He goes really well. Jack Gregory's on the card as well. All right. So there he is. German Garcia Montez, 9-6. Coming off an 8th round stoppage loss to Sergey Kuzmin. Shit. Nearly 2.5 years ago. So it's been a while in between drinks. Also lost to a guy who was 27-4, was knocked out in 2 rounds by Ryan Rozicki. Yep, we all know Ryan. Lost a decision to David Light 6 years ago. Excuse me. And also lost to Giovanni Bruzo. Sorry, guys. And was also stopped in the 2nd round back in 2018. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not expecting a lot of Eminem, but let's hope we're wrong. Is Jai going to pull out the fight Ramirez in January, says Chandler. I don't think so, Chandler. I did see that Oscar said he wants Ramirez back in January or February. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more like March or April. But if you talk to Oscar, they're looking to fight David Benavidez. So this is what I said this morning as well. It's going round and round and round. You've got David Benavidez saying, I'm going to stay at light heavyweight for 5 more years. Yes, 5 years. I'm going to stay at 175 and then go to cruiserweight. Who knows? There will be no one left by then. Jai will be gone. Ramirez will probably be gone. I don't know who he expects to fight. But, and Bivol and Better B, they'll all be gone. So, again, I don't know who he expects to fight in 5 years' time. But anyway, so he's going to stay at 175 for 5 years. Then you've got Oscar saying that, well, we're looking at, this is Ramirez fighting Benavidez. So, I don't know. They obviously haven't been in cahoots together. Then you got Golden Boy actually saying that, Eric Gomez from Golden Boy saying that that they expect Ramirez to fight. Jai to fight. Is it Badu Jack next? Oh, well, I can't remember what it was anyway. But either way, there's like 3 or 4 different parties. Then you got Mick Francis with his point of view. I think he's the one you believe the most because he doesn't bullshit at all. There's no fluff, as someone just said then. He just tells you the way it is. And they would fight Ramirez, Benavidez, Bivol, whoever it is tomorrow, if the opportunity came. But then you got all this spin coming from David Benavidez, from Oscar De La Hoya, from Eric Gomez. It's all just going in a roundabout. So I can understand Jai Patai's frustration and Mick Francis's frustration with all this because all they want to do is fight the best. But unfortunately, this is the world of professional boxing. A lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of things happening behind the scenes. So I don't. It's a bit late to pull out now, Chandler, with Jai. What are we? Only about 3 weeks away. So it's not going to happen now, I wouldn't have thought. You never know, though. That old hammy might be feeling a bit tight. Who knows? Glenn says, didn't Spence announce his retirement last week? God knows the Charlos should as well. I didn't see that, Glenn. The Charlos are an interesting story. Jamel, the 154-pound version, the one that fought Canelo, I think there's still scope for him to come back. But he's been out for just over 2 years. Jamal, the middleweight version, well, he's up and down. Actually, I think he's at 168 now, isn't he? So he's hot and cold. He's in, he's out. I don't know. With those types of guys, Glenn, I just move on. It's like, all right, well, once you get a fight actually booked, then I'll take some notice. I don't listen to anything the Charlos say. Whatever they put on social media or whatever they say on news sites, like, yeah, right, well, I just scroll past it until I just think, oh, well, when you get a fight organised, then I'll take notice. Until that time, you don't exist to me. And Spence, I didn't see that he retired, but I think he should. I think he should, Glenn. I think Spencer's, from what we saw against Crawford, should retire 100%. Richard says, I want to see him go with a high-quality fighter. That's probably Taramoni you're talking about there. Fredo, what platform is going to be showing Opatai's fight? I can't find one. Yeah, well, I'm assuming you're not in Australia, Fredo. But yeah, Stan Sports. Yep. If I was you, if you want to watch that fight, I'd be getting a VPN. So it thinks you're in Australia. Change it to Brisbane, your VPN location. So it thinks you're in Australia. Then get a free trial with Stan Sport and pay for the pay-per-view. I think it's probably going to be about $40 or something. If you're in America or whatever, it's probably about $30. But based on that, probably even less, $25 or whatever, and do it that way. But I can't believe that a world title fight featuring Jai Patai is on Stan Sports. So I don't know. Maybe Stan might be making a run for it. Maybe they've targeted Jai Patai to be the main man for the app, and maybe looking to get a lot more serious about it and give DAZN something to think about. Maybe, but I don't know. Again, I haven't spoken to Mick Francis, but it seems odd to me that it's on Stan. All right, Ray Lee. Errol Spence went to Virgil Ortiz's change room. Maybe there are some plans already in the mix. Yeah, but we had the same thing with Zayos and Fundora, didn't we, Ray Lee? And nothing happened with that either. I just think they're both from Texas, aren't they? I think. So you would think that Errol might have just known Virgil and went in there to say hello and congratulate him and maybe get a photo or two taken. Who knows? But wouldn't surprise me if they fought. I just think Virgil Ortiz will probably want 2 guys, Boots Ennis or Sebastian Fundora, I would think. Tony, I like Terramona, but I think he needs to be tested or at least go past round one. He seems like a real nice young fella with a big future. He does, Tony. That's the thing. The guy can fight. He can legitimately fight, and I think he could do all sorts of things on the world stage. But unfortunately, I know a lot of it might not be his fault, by the way. Maybe they've tried to give him opponents. Maybe they just can't get him decent opponents. There's been a couple of late replacements and that sort of stuff as well. But again, I cannot take him seriously until I see him in a real fight. So, yeah, he is building the record up, Eminem. But, I mean, what's he had? 8 fights or something? I mean, how long do you have to build your record up? Some people are almost fighting for world titles after 8 fights, aren't they? I mean, you look at the guys Terramona's fought. His first guy was, he was actually 2-0. Next one was having his debut. The next one was 11-16. Next one was 0-1. I actually had one that was 11. Is that right? Hang on, are these? Okay. One of his guys was 11-1, but I think I remember that fight. That was at the start of this year. I think that was what you call a bit of a padded record. Yes, I would think so, because he's been knocked out about 4 times since then, since this time last year, and a couple of times in the first round. So, yeah, I've got a feeling his record was quite padded before that. But, look, I really like him, Eminem. I do. I'm a big fan of Terramona, but, again, what do you say until he's actually in there with someone that can fight? Chandler, I think Lubin looked composed and compact until Ortiz set on him. Oh, yeah, well, I'm with you, Chandler. I thought the first round was actually a pretty good round for Lubin. I still gave it to Ortiz, but I thought that Lubin didn't look too bad. And it wasn't until Ortiz really upped the pace and Lubin decided he'd just take a bit of a rest on the ropes that it was all over. And that's how it happens in professional boxing. Well, not just professional boxing, but boxing all around. You get complacent, you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and it's over in the space of 5 seconds. So, yeah, I thought he didn't look too bad, Lubin, in the first round. Eminem, will Tim Azu even be fighting at 154 moving forward? Hey, that's a really good question. Excellent question, Eminem. I hadn't even stopped to consider that. Maybe that might be one of the changes that the management team make. It might be saying to Tim, well, okay, let's just take out of the equation your cutting weight. All right, we don't want rehydration clauses. We don't want you worrying about your weight and all the rest of it. You got enough on your plate that we need to get you at a good weight. He did start his career at 160, remember, Tim Tszyu. So maybe that's a good point, Eminem. Maybe they might move him up to 160 and say, all right, we want a big, well, not a big, but a good, solid Tim Tszyu that's not weight drained and he's at his optimal, healthy weight, and see what he can do. Yeah, it's a not a bad strategy, Eminem. It could be part of the overall thing they're looking to do. Technique, weight, lots of different things. So you never know. It's a good point. Drew, poor old Spencer's really starting to look like a legitimate outside chance for Ortiz next. Oh, don't say that, Drew. It's a shame how boxing tends to cash in and kill off its past stars once they are expired. Yeah, well, he become yesterday's news pretty quick, didn't he, Drew? I mean, think about it. When's the last time you actually thought about Errol Spence Jr.? The sports just passed him by in about 5 seconds. I mean, when he fought Terence Crawford, one of the biggest fights for many years, and he's barely even been mentioned since. So that's how quick it can come and go. But just judging by what I saw in the Crawford fight, Drew, I didn't like what I saw. He was just battered from pillar to post and was never in the fight. I know Crawford is an all-time great. I get that. But there are a lot of people that gave Spencer a chance to win that fight, and he was never in it. Never in it. Look, I would be disappointed if the powers that be that manage and promote Ortiz looked at Spencer and said, yeah, we'll get this guy in because of just a payday. Packing out the Dallas Cowboys Stadium and making big money and all the rest of it, that's great. But I just see it as leading a lamb to the slaughter. It really would be. I'd be surprised if it went 3 or 4 rounds, if I was being honest. Big call, but here goes, says Tony. Andrew Hunt will be a modern-day Jimmy Thunder. Well, it was a little bit more technically better than what Jimmy Thunder was, Tony. I used to love Jimmy Thunder, by the way, as I'm sure you did. But there wasn't a lot of science behind what Jimmy Thunder did. He stood in the center of the ring, waited for his chance, and then boom, and it was all over. He gets forgotten about a little bit, Jimmy Thunder. Imagine an all-Kiwi Pacific Islander fight between him and David Tua. Oh, What a fight that would have been back in the day. But if you haven't seen him, guys, check out Jimmy Thunder. He was a beast. He really was. And you talk about heavy hitters. You thought David Tua can punch. Wait till you see this guy. Just, one punch knockout power. But just lacked a lot of technique and boxing IQ, unfortunately, Jimmy, and got found out a little bit later as he got up in quality of opponents. Andrew Hunt, I think, could go a little bit further, I think, Tony, but we'll see. He's got a long way to go, Andrew, but yeah, it's thanks for bringing up Jimmy Thunder. He was great back in the day. Where else is Tim going to fight? Not big or strong enough for 160. Don't know, Glenn. The physical attributes of Tim probably matches, an elite, or not an elite, but just an overall good size middleweight. Height, reach, all that sort of stuff. Don't know. As I said, he did start his career at 160. I don't know. Look, I'd be surprised if he went to 160, but on the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's the right move for him. I think he should stay at 154. But again, could they look at 160 and say, okay, you know what? We're not really, as I say, they're big or strong enough compared to some of these other 160-pounders, but it's a hell of a lot better than trying to go up against those really tough elite 154-pounders. Maybe they see the Yanabeks and Laras and Adames of those types of fighters being maybe a tad easier than the Ortizes and Ennises and Fondoras and Murtazaliov. So we'll see. We'll see. Tony, online it states that John Manu is boxing on Christmas Day. Is that right? I would strongly doubt. I thought it was December 27th or something, was it, Tony? Hang on, let me have a look. There's no way in Australia they'd have a fight on Christmas Day, you would think. Let's have a look. No, that is December the 13th there, Tony. So on BoxRec, it goes by month first. So that is December the 13th. Still no opponent, though. So that card is being promoted by Joe Demicoli. So, still no opponent at this stage. But, geez, it's only a month away. You'd think they'd get things moving because on BoxRec, there is 5 fighters on that card without a fight at the moment. Sometimes other promoters will get it done. They just forget to update BoxRec, but we'll see. But no, it's not on Boxing Day, Tony. On Christmas Day. It's on the 13th of December. Hello to you, Bacon and Eggs. Thanks for joining in. All right, Drew. Looks like you're going to change the subject here. I had an interesting conversation with a friend about who the better boxing legacy and career out of Mundine or Green. Stylistically, I think Mundine had Green's number, but hard to split them. As far as who's the better fighter, Drew, I think that was pretty obvious. It was Anthony Mundine. But who had the better career? I'd almost argue that Danny Green had the better career. I'd have to study the resumes of both, but just off the top of my head, I would say that Danny Green had the better career. Anthony Mundine had the win over Eccles to win the WBA belt. Green had the win over Roy Jones Jr., fought the likes of Antonio Tarver, amongst others. A lot of other good fighters in there as well. I would think legacy. See, legacy, I don't think you could split either one of them as far as a legacy goes. I think both of them, in their own way, have just affected Australian boxing in ways that we probably even couldn't get our heads around. I mean, what those two guys brought to the sport of boxing in Australia was just not so much worldwide, of course. No one probably knew them outside of Australia, or not many anyway, but what they did for Australian boxing, they had Australian boxing on the lips of pretty much the entire nation. They really did when they fought. And not just when they fought each other. When Mundine fought, massive pay-per-view. When Green fought, massive pay-per-view. And I think the amount of kids they brought to the sport, the media attention they got, I'm glad they've both made a lot of money out of the sport. They deserve it. But as far as legacy, I couldn't split them, Drew, because I think they've been phenomenal in their own way. But as far as who was the better fighter, I would say Mundine. Who had the better career, I would say Danny Green. Arguably, by the way, arguably. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? Isn't it just amazing the perfect storm between those two guys. Boxing in here in Australia just needed both of those guys, and just what they did together. They were the yin to each other's yang. It was amazing. It really was. And I think I've said on here before, I remember Danny Green talking about Anthony Mundine when we were on the Commonwealth Games team together in '98 in Kuala Lumpur. Because at that time, Mundine was starting to do this. He was going to turn pro and get out of rugby. And Danny just wanted a piece of him. A couple of other guys did too, by the way. But Danny Green, you could almost see that he felt it was his destiny to fight Anthony Mundine. And that's, of course, what happened. So, all right, we've got a super chat from Andy. How are you there, mate? $10. Thank you very much. Hello, boxing fans. Congratulations, Virgil Ortiz and Hunt and Moy Solomon. Yep, statement KOs. Virgil versus Boots would next would be lit, but I'm not holding my breath. Breath or breath? Yep, breath. I was going to say not holding your breast. Breath, I meant to say. Smash the like, 100%. What else have we got there? Glenn, Mundine, just better. Yeah, and look, I've got a lot of respect for Danny. I know him really well, but I mean, facts are facts, Glenn. I just think Mundine was the better fight. I think he showed that in the 2006 fight. I don't take anything out of the 2017 fight. I think it was great for Danny to get some revenge and be able to sleep a little easier at night and all that sort of stuff. But in my opinion, Anthony Mundine showed in their fight that he was a couple of levels above. All right, Brian. Okay. All right. I'm not sure. And I'll take a breath here. I'm not sure I like this sort of question. I've got to make you understand what. All right. Can you please explain to me so I can understand and see it when a boxer punches and really sits down on it, as the saying goes, or similar saying? So you're asking what it means by sitting down on it? Is that what you're saying? When he sits down, it's really when they obviously push off the balls of the feet there, Brian, and they get in the right stance and are perfectly balanced and poised and timed properly and really dig in. So it's not just the pity-pat sort of stuff, sitting down the punches. It's really getting those legs into it, pushing off the balls of your toes, getting probably a wider stance so you're more balanced and be able to deliver more power. That's what it means to sit down on it. I hope that's what you mean, Brian. But if I don't, then elaborate and I'll keep going. Chandler, Sour Caroline. Yeah, look, I don't want to be a party pooper, Chandler, but I just hate that song. I really do. It's just wheeled out at the football and basketball and of course the boxing, you name it. They play Sweet Caroline. Is that how far behind I am? I think I mentioned that about 45 minutes ago. So sorry, guys. All right, James, Bugger the Dancing Girls and Singers. I'm surprised they didn't have an hour to do raffles as well. Yes. Well, normally at those sort of shows, James, you do have a time where they have the auctions. They are not the raffles. They have the auction. I've got a feeling that maybe DAZN said, this is our time limit and this is what we need in between. By the way, you got to pay for everything and you got to do what we tell you to do. But, you got to do it our way, but you've got to pay for it. So, but yeah. It's not, I used to hate doing the auctions, James, and I didn't do them for probably the first 15 shows that I did. The last probably 10 I did because end of the day, that was probably the only money I was making out of the shows. That's how tight it was. So I had to take the $3 or $4 grand I made out of that, and that was probably about it. So, all right, Ray Lee. Yes, it was a great call from the ref stopping the Virgil Lynden fight. It will be interesting to see who can beat Virgil at 154 moving forward. I love watching Virgil fight. Yeah, I like him too, Ray Lee. There are some flaws there. Don't get me wrong, and he'll be exposed somewhat at some stage. And Boots Ennis is probably that guy. I'd probably like to see how he's going to go against someone like Sebastian Fundora. How is he going to try and get in and move his head so he can do the work? So someone like Boots, I think, would probably outbox Fundora just because of the styles. Virgil would have a little bit more problems. He needs to be inside to do his best work. And could he do it against someone like Sebastian Fundora, who's just managed to keep all those guys away from him, bar Brian Mendoza. So, but I'm with you though, Ray Lee. I love watching him fight. But who can beat him? I think Fundora, probably the best bet besides Boots Ennis, I would think. Richard, what did Jazzy say to her opponent after the announcer confirmed the result? From all accounts, Richard, I'm not sure exactly what was said, but Maya Solomon went to sort of give her a hug, and she pretty much went on the lines of, "Yeah, well, I'm not interested." I got a feeling someone did tell me that what they heard was that she sort of said to Maya Solomon, had a bit of a crack about when she was through the ropes and Maya Solomon kept punching. Now, that's quite within Maya Solomon's rights. As long as she's not hitting her on the back of the head, she looked like she was hitting her on the side. Nothing wrong with that. It's up to the referee to get in there and get in between them. And he didn't. He was a little bit slow. But from what I heard, she was just like, yeah, well, what happened in the ropes? And whatever she said, I think Maya Solomon just said, you don't want to hug or whatever. Couldn't care less. But not great form, Richard. I didn't think it was a good look at all. At all. Eminem, before the fight, reported the other day that Sam Goodman will fight Tyler Blizzard and Dempsey McKean to fight Tuasi Vusuatu. Don't know, Eminem. Haven't really been following a lot on social media locally, I must admit. I'm normally right across before the fight, but I haven't really seen much from them lately. I don't know. Tyler Blizzard, look, it makes sense, doesn't it? A comeback fight. Wouldn't be surprised if that was the case for Sam. He needs to come back against somebody. Is it going to be a pay-per-view, though, Eminem? Big question. Are you going to pay for that, guys? Are you going to pay to watch Sam Goodman fight Tyler Blizzard in a pay-per-view? And you might laugh at that, but hey, he fought Mark Sleeves in a pay-per-view. I reckon that fight there, the Sam Goodman-Mark Sleeves fight, it just in my opinion, would have been the lowest main event pay-per-view of all time. Who would have paid to watch it? Besides me, by the way, but I was doing a live watch-along. They're the things I do for you guys. Who would have paid to watch that fight? Sam, is there anyone out there? Let me know. I know I'm way behind, but I'll get to it at some stage. Did anyone out there pay for Sam Goodman versus Mark Sleeves? And will you pay to see him fight Tyler Blizzard? I will pay to see it, but again, I'll just be doing a live watch along. Don't know about Dempsey McKean fighting Tuasi Vusuatu. That's a tough fight, though, for Dempsey. That's a risky fight, too. All right, Sam, hi there, mate. Has anyone here heard who Timzo is going to fight? And Zerto needs to grow a set and fight Jai, but who else holds belts for Jai? Haven't heard who he's going to fight yet, Sam. We're running out of time if they want to do it next month. What are we, about 5 weeks away? Probably looking less and less likely it's going to happen. I doubt they would put Tim on the undercard of Nikita and Zarafa. I think he'd take too much attention away from the main event. I don't know. I've been pretty staunch that he will fight on December 17th, but so far nothing's been announced. And as I said, we're 5 weeks away. So I think it'll be a Joey Spencer type, Sam. Don't expect any elite fighters, I wouldn't have thought. As Big J'd say, it's just a tomato can. That's who he's going to fight. And there's nothing wrong with that. He probably needs a couple of tomato cans before he attempts to go back up the ladder. And you're right, Zerto needs to grow a set. Just fight Jai. It's the biggest fight in the division. Just do it. If Benavidez is not interested, why not fight Jai Pataya? It doesn't make sense to me. Hey, he got in there with who beat him? Bivol. So he got in there with Bivol. Why wouldn't he get in with Jai Pataya? Doesn't make sense, but I'm sure they got their reasons. I just got a feeling that Golden Boy and Zerto have sort of said, well, let's not fight this guy until we absolutely have to. Let's not go chase the fight. Let's see if David Benavidez is interested. That's, of course, a bigger fight. Let's see if Jake Paul's interested. Can't believe it. That would be a bigger fight. But I would think they're trying to make a few of those fights and then not fight Jai until they absolutely 100% have to. Now, I think if Jake Paul doesn't want to fight and David Benavidez doesn't want to fight and Bivol doesn't want to fight or Better Beav doesn't want to fight or anyone else along those lines, then you might see him fight Jai. I reckon they might even go for even a Badu Jack first and try and take the thunder from Jai and beat Badu and take 3 of the belts. Then they obviously hold even more hand. And then they can go into the Jai Pataya fight and probably have a little bit more of that upper hand as far as negotiations go. All right, explicit. When do you think Tico will announce their first show for January? I'd say early December. Yeah, I did hear that, explicit. Is it January they're going to do the show? I saw somewhere the other day that an announcement was imminent about when they would actually do the first show. I didn't think it was going to be January. But then again, what have they got? How many events for the year? Is it 14 or something they're going to do? I can't remember. Interesting times when they hit the market. I did say the other day that WBO and IBF are getting together for their convention to try and join forces to try and fight what they're doing. I wonder what the WBC and WBA will do. Be interesting. But they've certainly got a lot of people worried, that's for sure, explicit. Adam, what's that? Your good thing, don't sleep on Nikita. He would punch holes in most 154. Yes. Is that worldwide, Adam? Is that punched holes through most in the 154-pound division? Look, I'm with you. I'm not sleeping on Nikita. I think he's a great talent. I have said he'll beat, in my opinion, he beats Zarafa. But I'm not sure you could honestly, Adam, it sounds like you're a Nikita fan there. I'm not sure in any universe you could look at Nikita's past fights and say that he would punch holes in most of the world's best 154-pounders. I hope that's the case. I think he's definitely got the potential, but he needs to really tighten up on a lot of areas. I couldn't say that that's the case, Adam, based on his previous fights. Most 154s. What does that mean? Is that outside the top 10, or is that including when you say most? Is that including the top 3 or 4 in the division? Way too early to say that, though, mate. I mean, I'm a big fan of Nikita. I think he's got a lot of positives. And when he sticks to what he can do best, he looks fantastic. The problem is, as we've all seen, I'm sure you can agree, as soon as he gets nailed with a shot or rocked or tired or frustrated, whatever, it all just goes out the window and it's just a free-for-all. So unless he can fix that, I just don't see him going very far at him. I really hope I'm wrong. As I said, I'm a big fan, but I'm only going by his previous fights. So if he can clean that up, he can 100% be a major player at 154, but it's a big if, really, when you think about it. Eminem, Paulo Acuso back this weekend. Who is he fighting? I didn't see anything about that. Give me a look. Is it on Box Rec? Let's have a look. Sweet Pea. No, it's nothing on Box Rec, Eminem. Fill us in, mate. Who have you got? James, I agree with Big J on Ennis and Ortiz. Barkram beats them all. Oh, I don't agree, James. I don't agree. And I know Barkram looked like a killer against Tim Tszyu, but I saw a few of his fights before the Tim Tszyu fight, and I thought he looked okay, but certainly not the boogeyman they all sort of portray him as. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the fight with Tim was, oh, geez. I mean, I still get nightmares. I'm sure Tim does, even thinking about that fight. But I don't think Barkram. I look, maybe if he's going to have a chance against either Ennis or Ortiz, maybe Ortiz would be the one because he'll come at him, and maybe Barkram can do what he did with Tim. I can't see any way, style-wise, that Barkram Murtazalev would beat Jared Ennis or Boots Ennis. I really can't see it. I just think Ennis would be far too slick, too quick, too nimble, just too everything for Barkram. And I just think he'd give him angles and just box his ears off for 12 rounds. Just my opinion. Don't think he'd stop him, but I think he would box rings around Barkram, in my opinion. Ortiz would be his best bet, but even then, I just think Ortiz would be too good for Barkram. Just go back and watch a few of his fights before the Tim Tszyu fight, James. And I can't believe it's been over a year since he fought Tim Tszyu. It's crazy. But he's impressive, and I think he's a very, very good champion. But I'm just not getting too excited by what he did against Tim. It was a great performance, unbelievable performance, in fact. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the camp that he beats Ennis or Ortiz. Let's have a drink here, guys. All right, could Lubin have ducked and moved around off the ropes? I think Virgil's power with multiple punches was too much. Look, I think what he should have done, Ray Lee, is just give him a few angles. First of all, don't lay on the ropes. That should have been maybe a given from the corner. Erickson, don't lay on the ropes, okay? Give him some angles. Don't run from him, but give him angles. So don't just stand right in front of him, especially on the ropes. Just off to the side, off to the other side. Just give him something to think about. When he comes at him, pivot off to the right, and he comes at him again, pivot off. Just give him something. Just mix things up for the first 3 or 4 rounds. Then see where you're at after that. I just think it was a spur-of-the-moment thing, Ray Lee, if I'm being honest. I don't think Lubin would have had any game plan to do that or to rope-a-dope, whatever the hell it looked like he was trying to do. I just think he thought he was safe. I think he got on the ropes and just thought he'd let Ortiz throw a few punches and maybe see what happens. He just got caught. I think we're trying to analyse a little bit too much. He stopped on the ropes when he shouldn't have. He didn't punch back when he should have, and he just held the arms up. Ortiz took the opportunity and just bombed him out of there. It's as simple as that. He took his opportunity, and that's what good fighters do. Big J, who do you think is the better second generation, Chris Eubank Jr. or Tim Zoo? Geez, Big J, I like the question. See, for once you're not hanging shit on fighters, Big J. I like it. It's good. It's good. Constructive questions. I like it. I'm only joking. Better second generation. Now, is this a two-part question, Big J? Is it who's the better fighter, or who's had the better career? I would think if you ask the question, or both of those questions, I would say that I think Tim Zoo is the better fighter, but Chris Eubank Jr. has had the better career, even though Tim Zoo has won a world title and Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't. And who would win between them is another good question. 50-50 for me, 50-50. A better second generation. Yeah, as I said, I think Tim Zoo is probably the more naturally talented, but Chris Eubank Jr. for me has had the better career so far, even without the world title. James, nobody fights Bakram. He must be the most avoided fighter on earth. He's only avoided, James, because fighting him doesn't make sense. Now, I don't buy the whole thing over they're scared of him. That's the Michael Zarafa thing. They all say that Michael didn't want to fight Tim because he was scared, which is bullshit. Had nothing to do with that. It was to do with what happened with the COVID and all that sort of stuff. But in this instance here, you're right, he's avoided, but not for the reasons you might think. Boots Ennis and Sebastian Fundora and Virgil Ortiz, maybe the Charlos, aren't avoiding Bakram because they're scared of him. Those type of fighters aren't scared of fighters, just like Zarafa wasn't scared of Tim Zoo. It's to do with the fact that Bakram is a very, very rugged fighter. He's awkward. Obviously, he can punch. Those Russians are just supernatural sometimes, and he represents all that risk for no reward whatsoever. Okay, I know he's got a world title belt, but career-wise, those types of guys look at Bakram and go, yeah, okay, well, I've got so many more options in the 154-pound division. Why would I fight this guy for? Shit money, but with massive, massive risk. That's why he's avoided. And I suppose you are right there, the most avoided fighter on earth. Yeah, maybe, possibly. But as I said, James, not because they're scared of him. It's just because he just doesn't make sense to fight. And especially after what he did to Tim, that's probably the worst thing that could have happened to him, to be honest, because if he hadn't beat Tim and just kept beating those other guys he was fighting, the Cole Kays of the world, then maybe you would have someone like a Boots Ennis or one of these guys looking at him saying, yeah, we'll take that guy. He's beatable. He's got a belt. I just want to, especially with Boots Ennis, or Virgil Ortiz, who I forgot doesn't have the real belt. He has the interim belt. They'll be looking at Bakram and say, oh, well, this is the easiest route to a strap. Let's go for him. Beating Tim Zoo, in retrospect, wasn't great for his career because he hasn't fought since. No one's really wanted to fight him. And Josh Kelly, well, the only one that sort of made sense at the time was willing to step up. But, I don't like the fact he's avoided, by the way, James, but that's just it's a business decision. Look, it would be different, by the way, if he was promoted by a Golden Boy or Matchroom or even a Top Rank or one of those, or PBC, even better, but he's not. He's promoted by the Duvers, who don't actually put on fights for him. They're his official promoters. They used to put on fights, but not so much anymore. So he's always that guy who they've got to bend over to get him a fight. Now, Matchroom have taken on the fight with Josh Kelly because I would think that Eddie Hearn would want a little bit of control of Bakram after this in case Boots beats Ortiz or anyone else, and he has that option of putting him in with Bakram because you can be assured that there'll be fight options in there to put that fight on with Bakram and also Josh Kelly. You'd think Eddie would have a 2 or 3 fight sort of option on those guys by putting the fight on. So he's sort of protecting his asset a little bit by having Bakram there. So if he decides to put him with Boots Ennis, he's got him in his pocket. So that's probably why he's done it. Because there's probably not a lot of money to be made in the Josh Kelly fight, I wouldn't have thought. So, as I said, mate, I don't agree with people avoiding Bakram, but unfortunately, without the right team behind him and being such a dangerous fighter, that's why he's being avoided, not because he's such a great fighter. Glenn, you think Eubank? Yep, over Tim or Timmy. Glenn, there's no money fighting Bakram. That's the problem. Yes, 100%. Oh, mate, Big J. I agree. Bigger those. Hang on, 100%. And I agree. Those awful dancers and singers at the Sam Labruna show. He's just trying to entertain the people in the crowd, Big J. Although I don't think, judging by the response, a lot of people really appreciate it. But anyway, Fathy posted on Instagram saying he had some dodgy lamb. Oh my God, that led to him having a poor performance. Well, I'm off whatever train is left of Mounir Fathy. If he's the train, the Mounir Fathy train, I'm off it. I'm jumping off. I hate when fighters say this, Eminem. I just hate it. Just say you're beaten. Look, I don't think the lamb had anything to do with you getting nailed and knocked out cold. Do you? Maybe it could have explained, maybe been a bit sluggish or whatever it might have been early in the fight, but mate, you got knocked out and knocked out hard. So blame all the lamb you want. You're grasping at straws. So whatever little faith I had in Fathy, I'm out of the gang. I'm leaving the gang. Those that believe in Fathy, because you don't say that. That's ridiculous. All right. I thought it was greatly disrespectful, says Drew, of Sergio Mora shouting into the broadcast microphone that Lubin was shot. I think suggesting that he might not have too many more tomorrows would suffice. Yeah, you got to be professional, Drew. I did see that. I agree it was disrespectful. Just have your opinion. Do it the way Timothy Bradley does it. Okay, a lot of people don't like his point of view, but at least he says it, well, we'll call it respectfully anyway. He points out his comment and why. That's more reason why he says why he thinks that way. And that's why I like Timothy Bradley. But to say he's shot, he just got caught. Simple as that. He's not shot. He copped some shots, and that's what stopped him in the end. It had nothing to do with him being a shot fighter. He got caught. He made a momentary blunder as far as his strategy goes. He stopped, didn't punch back, left himself open, and Ortiz finished the show or closed the show. That's what happened. All right, had nothing to do with Lubin being shot. He just had a 10-second brain fade, and that was enough for Ortiz to end the fight. Big J, do you think Jazzy Parr is giving off sore loser vibes? I've spoken to her a couple of times. A very polite and well-mannered young woman, but seems to have a cry every time she loses. Yes, she's giving off sore loser vibes. Big J, 100%. That's exactly what she's doing. I understand. Look, the thing is, I spoke about this on D-Style this morning. And you've been, whether you've been a boxer or footy player or whatever the hell it is, if you've lost anything, it hurts. Everyone hates losing. It really, it's really dagger into the heart, really, when you think about it. Everyone hates losing. But unfortunately, in life, there are times where you don't get your way and you don't win. So you've got to cop it on the chin, literally in Jazzy's case. So, go out the back and have a sulk and go hit the wall or do something. But when you're in public, be professional, okay? All she had to do was give Maya Solomon a hug, do the interview, and just be professional. You could tell that she was just being bitchy in that interview. She was a lot better than she has been in the past, especially after the Shannon O'Connell fight. But she needs to be checked by somebody. And her dad would probably be the main one to say, hey, Jazzy, you can't win every fight, okay? And even if you're pissed off and shattered and whatever it might be, you've got to still be professional and take it on the chin, and she just doesn't do it. So she does seem pretty polite outside the ring, Big J, but when things are going her way. I mean, look at what happened in the Shannon O'Connell situation. I've never seen a bigger sore loser in my life in that fight. And she, in this fight, unfortunately, probably got what was coming to her. So she needs to regroup. She needs to take a deep breath, have a good look at herself in the mirror, and come back and be better. She's 22 years of age, so she's still very immature, probably physically and also probably mentally goes. So she needs maybe a better mentor around her, I think, to say to her, there's a right way and a wrong way to behave after you've lost a fight. And when you win a fight too. Drew says Jazzy Parr has Ronda Rousey vibes. I think she's incredibly competitive by nature to the point of it being her sole identity mixed in with natural immunity. Just my take. I agree, Drew. I agree with that. Ronda Rousey, even to this day, just really struggles with her losses. Because she, probably on a bigger scale than what Jazzy has been, is that she's just been this superstar who's always had her way and always been lauded as some little superstar and no one could beat her and all this sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, someone stands up to her and says, no, I'm not going to let you have your own way. You want to fight me? I'm going to fight you back. And that's what happened to both of those girls. And Ronda Rousey, as I said, still to this day cannot accept that she actually lost a fight or two fights. and blames everybody else except herself. Jazzy Parr just needs to look at herself. One thing she needs to do, Drew, is practice her defense, because she has none, and practice her setting up punches, because she never sets up punches. She never throws a jab, never sort of moves ahead to get in position. It's just straight ahead, rock'em sock'em style. And Maya Solomon, who was controlled, she did jab, she picked her punches, and just that's what happened to in the end, that she caught Jazzy Parr and finished the fight. So she could learn a lot, Jazzy Parr, and I'm a big fan as far as her ability goes, but I'm not a fan of the way she behaves, Drew, and she could learn a lot from some other fighters out there. Ali Ugaz, how are you, Ali? The Sam Labruna fight night was a great event. What a comeback performance from Maya Solomon. The main event was controversial and unfortunate night for Fathy and Steffi Lee Cutting. Mariah Turner, talented. Yeah, it was a good night of fights, Ali, and especially from Maya Solomon. I didn't think the main event was controversial. I had Camille Bella winning 5 rounds to 3, even though he was marked up, and Vorobov let us all know about it afterwards with him making gestures with his face. But no, I thought Camille Bella did enough. I thought best case for Vorobov might have been a draw, but I had it 5 rounds to 3 for Camille Bella. And Fathy, as I said before, well, the old 1-2 Timmy Zoo all over. It wasn't even the 1-2, was it? It was just one punch, bang, all over. And Steffi Lee Cutting, unfortunately, Ali, just way out of her depth against Mariah Turner. She's a good little fighter, Mariah Turner. Mariah Turner. Very, very talented, as to say there. And she just won every round against Steffi Lee Cutting, who was just never in the fight, I didn't think. Just way out of her depth. Just that one drink there. All right, I don't think Tim was doing the right drills or any drills at all. From the clips I've seen, there seems to be more structure in his training already. I prefer he didn't fight so. He would prefer he didn't fight so soon, though. Yeah, I'm with you, James. Well, it just depends. I'm not against it. If it's against someone that's just pretty much a punching bag with legs, I don't mind it. I said the other day that it's good to get him back in the ring, just shake off a lot of the doubts and fears and everything that he had based on his last couple of fights. Just get him back in the ring with not much to worry about coming back at him, and just practice a few things I've been working on in camp. I've got no dramas with it. Yeah, I'm all for getting him straight back in the ring. I never knew that a southpaw's power hand is called a backhand. I always thought it was referred to as the left hand. Maybe I'm getting old and out of touch. Well, you're like me, Tony. We are old and out of touch. I remember when I was fighting, that was 27 years ago, my last fight, it was the rear hand. That was either hand, whether you're a right hander or a left or a southpaw. It was a rear hand and your lead hand. I always thought it was your jab and your power punch, but it's your lead and your rear hand. Backhand, yeah, I suppose it would be called backhand as well. I didn't know that just southpaws had the backhand, but the lead hand is a jab and the rear hand is the power punch, I always thought, Tony. But yeah, we are old and out of touch, I think. Completely uninspired by Eubank Ben 2 to the point of not watching it. Wow. It's not out of protest or to sound trendy. It just holds zero interest to me and zero relevance in the bigger picture. Not to mention it's on at about, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, Drew. So I'll be watching it. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about it, but I'll be watching it. Glenn says Parr and Rousey, a good comparison. Yeah. Big J, Tim can always go the IBO champ route. Besides Jeff Horn over the last 25 years, every world champ has won an IBO champ or belt. Mundine, Green, Dib, Alice, all won belts with the IBO. I didn't know that, Big J, because I've never even acknowledged the IBO exists. We'll throw Will Tomlinson in there as well. He had an IBO belt. Just for some reason, the IBO has never got off the ground, Big J, and I sometimes forget that it even exists, to be honest. So he could go that route, but I don't think it really achieves anything, really, to be honest. I don't think the other champions would be after a unification fight with him anyway. Rayleigh, mystery will be if brain, muscle, memory kicks in from when Tim has been in those wars like the Barkram fight. Should have stopped that fight sooner and trained on the fence. That's what I said, Rayleigh. As soon as he's in that position again, how will he react? That is the big question. Yeah, Daniel Gill won an IBO belt. Yep. Glenn, Tim's issue is how he lays his defense of his attack. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. Good point there, Glenn. I just don't think there's ever been any method to Tim. It's just like, well, he relies on just natural talent. And that's how he's won most of his fights. It hasn't been on defense or any tactical genius or anything like that. It's just been Tim being Tim. And unfortunately, he learnt the hard way that you just can't be just your natural self at that level. You need to have different levels to your game, different layers, as you say there. And unfortunately, we all seen on the big stage that Tim, his defence lacked a lot. And by the time we all sort of found out that he didn't have a defence, it was too late. He'd been demolished by Barkram and then by Fundora. So let's see if Pedro Diaz can do it. But again, my big question is what happens when he's in that position again? How does he react? How would the Bruna deal work with DAZN? If he funds the production, wouldn't DAZN still pay a fee for putting it on their platform? DAZN technically paying if it costs $50,000 and DAZN pay LeBruna $50K. You would think so, Ali, but no. As far as I know, DAZN, this is from Mick Francis himself, DAZN do not put the hand in the pocket. They expect the best production possible for your type of event, but they do not pay. Yeah. So what do you say? If he funds the production, wouldn't DAZN still pay a fee? No, they don't for putting on the platform. Because promoters like Sam LeBruna want the shows on DAZN. Every promoter wants the shows on a platform. I mean, I've talked to Will Thomason about this numerous times, about him wanting to get it out there. And you see, he doesn't put on his on these types of things because they'd be saying, well, we need all this money spent and, we don't get any, we're not going to pay you for it. So, no, Ali, DAZN would be saying to Sam LeBruna, you want your show on our network? Yeah, we'll put it on, but you pay all the expenses. That's what they would say. Why they're charging us to watch it, if you can believe that. James, Jai keeps making the wrong choices. He should go to America. Well, he's trying to, James. He's trying to get those fights. In the meantime, he's not getting those big fights, which is why he's got no choice but to put the smaller fights on here in Australia. He wants to go to America and fight Zurdo Ramirez. He wants to go maybe to Riyadh and fight David Benavidez. He wants those fights, but they just can't get in those fights. So in the meantime, he's got to fight them here. He can't fight them overseas because the Shinkaras of the world isn't going to earn any money in America. So they've got to do it in Australia. The Sequeiro fight wasn't going to make any money overseas. So they had to do it in Australia. The Nyika fight wasn't going to make any money, so they had to do it in Australia. So sometimes it's not about just choosing to do something. It's what you have to do to make the event possible. So, and at the same time, getting your mandatories and all that in as well. So, Jai might as well sign with Frank Warren and fight in the UK. Well, yeah, good in theory, explicit, but he's got a multi-year contract with Mick Francis, mate, so that's not going to happen. Big J, I did videos reviewing both the Jai Presser and Ortiz fight on my channel, Aussie Boxing Talk on YouTube. Yep, check that out, Aussie Boxing Talk. Big J on there letting us have it right between the eyes, as you say. IBO route, a route to a belt that isn't recognised is like taking a dead end. Yep, Chris Eubank is a 3 times IBO champ and nobody cares. 3 times, was he? I didn't know that. IBO is totally pointless at this stage. Yep, they may as well just close the doors on that, Glenn, because it's not getting any traction and just not going to get any better. Ray Lee, Tim's training fit with Pedro looks pretty intense. Can you train too much before any upcoming fights? No, I think it looks intense, Ray Lee, because they're putting on all the greatest hits on social media. So it looks like it's intense, but they'd be including a lot of technique in there. They have plenty of rest days. And maybe Pedro is looking at just getting a lot of work into Tim straight away, putting a lot of strength work into him, and then maybe backing it off a little bit later. I don't know, but you can do too much before a fight, but at the moment he hasn't actually got a fight booked. So maybe what they've looked to do in the last maybe month is really put some hard work into Tim strength and conditioning wise, and once the fight is sort of made, they're probably doing some sparring and all that as well. And maybe in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, they might sort of just really tailor that back. So it's all about technique and tuning up, but we'll see. Jai's boxing's version of Keith Urban. Nobody cares about him, so he has to get love from abroad. Yeah. Come on, Aussie media. Do better, even though you won't. It's cut and paste Zoo Nation. Yeah, a bit that way, Drew. Sam want to see belt holders fight in 154 each other wise. Round in circles. Yeah, well, we all want to see it, Sam, but I think it's going to happen. I really do. I think at some stage the 154-pound division will be unified again, I think. You've got the unification coming up with Zayos. You would think that maybe after, or who knows, maybe if Boots does fight Ortiz, we might have Fundora or the Fundora Thurman winner fight the winner of Murtazaliov and Kelly, and then we might have a unification for all the belts, and then whoever wins Boots and Ennis could maybe fight the winner of that down the track. Who knows? But just hang tight, have a bit of faith in there, Sam. I'm sure at some stage they'll unify that division. Mark, Virgil versus Fundora, Boots versus Jermel Charlo. The winners meet. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Yep, for sure. Good fights them too, Mark. I would probably back Boots to beat Jermel, I would think. I'm going to stick with Virgil to beat Fundora, but that would not be easy. Drew, I would prefer not to see Errol Spence fight on. Yes, he always had that slow Southern country drawl, but his speech has definitely deteriorated further. Nobody wants subtitles for Errol. No, I agree. We've seen it too many times over the years, Drew. So, yeah, I would prefer him to retire now. I'm sure he's got enough money. He doesn't need to fight, but, yeah, don't want to see him in there again. Drew says, call me impatient, but I'm definitely getting anxiety for Opetai's career. Ramirez is getting surgery and talking Benavides, and Jack is pricing himself out, and CBS never talks about Jai yet. Yep. Not good, Drew. Unfortunately, all those fighters have sort of some different options, or maybe not CBS, Billum Smith, he hasn't, but Badu, Jack and Ramirez would probably see out their careers without ever having to fight Jai if they didn't want to. So let's just hope that, as I said before with Ramirez, that he runs out of options and faces Jai. Thoughts on Ben Mahoney or Marnie? Seems like he has all the tricks, but unfortunately, I truly believe my 14-year-old granddaughter has more power in her punches. Sad but true. Yeah, I just think Ben Mahoney, Tony, is a fighter that, look, he's good at domestic level, and who knows, maybe could have done something at international level, but with that lack of power you talk about there, I really think he struggles at anywhere outside of domestic level, Tony. Anywhere near the top 15 anyway. Seems like a good guy, seems like a good fighter, but yeah, I've got my worries like you, mate, that he can go any further than domestic. Big J, the IBO belt completely renewed Danny Green's career and financially made him millions. Tim could go the same route and win an IBO belt and just fight easy beats to keep his bank account full. Don't necessarily agree with that, Big J. Yeah, he won that IBO belt, but I think it was all just to get the fight with, well, the Roy Jones Jr. fight is what renewed Danny's career and got him, those millions of dollars. It wasn't necessarily the IBO belt, I don't think. I forgot that he even had the IBO belt. Is that even on BoxRec? Do they have the IBO? I think they do, don't they? Did he win it against the Brazilian or something, didn't he? It was on the undercard of Roy Jones Jr., I remember. Where is it? Where is the green machine? So I reckon he fought, when did he fight Roy Jones? Yes, there it is. So there it is there. So he fought Julio Cesar Dominguez for the IBO Cruiserweight title. Now, I forgot that he even fought for that belt, Big J, so I'm not necessarily convinced that it renewed his career. I think the fact that he got the Roy Jones Jr. fight renewed his career and put those millions in his pocket. So he beat Jones Jr., beat Manny Siaka, beat Paul Briggs. They were all for the IBO belt. Okay, I didn't even know they were for the IBO belt. Big J, there you go. But I've got to disagree with you again. Sorry, mate. I don't think the IBO belt had anything to do with what happened with Danny. I think it was a Roy Jones Jr. fight that did what it did. Okay, I'll let you guys talk about that. Mark, Tim's cooked at the top level, in my opinion. Ortiz belts him, Boots belts him, Charlo belts him. Damn, I'm not sure even if he has a chance against Zayas or Barrow. He's done on the world stage. Well, yeah, I think at this stage, Mark, look, I haven't really seen much of Barrow, I'll be honest about that. I just saw some highlights of his last fight. Zayas, I think if Tim had a couple of fights under his belt on his best, I think he'd have a chance against Zayas. But those other guys, no. I don't think so. I don't think he has a chance against any of those guys. Ryan, Jimmy Thunder was an ex-kickboxer, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was, Ryan. I think he was from New Zealand, of course, but yeah, he might have been. Mark says, I think you're being generous to Tony. I reckon my 5-month-old grandson hits harder than Maloney. It's Marnie or Maloney, Mahoney, not Maloney, but yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah, he did turn his hand to boxing. That's Jimmy Thunder. What do you got here, Chandler? What about Tim Terima Zoo. I have no idea what that even means. Chandler, hang on, I'm going to type it in and see what comes up. What's Terima mean? Terima. No, it means nothing. So no, I have no idea about that there, mate. Whoa, like this. What about Tim Zuffa Zoo? Don't mind that, Ryan. Yeah, that'll be a hell of a shameless kiss-ass move for Zoo. Yeah, could be. Eminem, excited for Janabek and Lara. Yeah, that'll be a great fight, Eminem. That'll be that's a really underestimated fight, that. Hasn't really been a lot said about it. That is the pick of that card for sure. It's on the Pitbull Cruz and Roach card. Yeah, I think I'm hoping Janabek wins that, Eminem. I'm a big fan of Janabek, and I would love to see him fight Terence Crawford. I think Janabek can fight. So, yeah, that should be a very, very good fight. Drew says, I've got Janabek beating Lara on points. The Lara prime version of the prime Lara of Lara I would have on points. Yeah, yep, good call, Drew. I know it's part of the entertainment and I might be on my lonesome here, but the rainbow butterflies were a bit too much for a boxing show, in my opinion. Had me chuckling and shaking my head. Yeah, I'm with you, Andy. That's on the the fight night the other night. Yes, I'm with you. He's just having a crack, though, Andy. He's trying to entertain us. Drew, I washed my friend's car to watch Goodman versus Sleeves because I didn't want to pay for it. I wish I had never picked up the hose and sponge. That was a shocker. He was still talking smack afterwards, though, Drew. It was Mark Sleeves, even though he barely won a second against Sam Goodman. Don't quote me on it, but somewhere I saw Zerdo wants 12 million to fight Jai. Thoughts, yeah, it was 8 million Australian. Oh, sorry, 8 million American, which works out to 12 million Australian. Yep, that's right, Andy. I think he's dreaming, Andy, to quote the castle. All right, Andy. Nikita needs to focus on Zarafa. Has to climb into mandatory position versus some killers. Barkram is the boogeyman, in my opinion, but more from a risk versus reward perspective. Ortiz had chance versus Barkram, but declined. Yeah, and that's for that reason, Andy. Tough fight for Ortiz, but he thought, well, I'll just fight Erickson Lubin instead. Probably an easier fight, better payday, more exposure. Gets me a world title fight. Well, not a world title fight, but a big fight with Ennis and potentially Fundora. Barkram's he's just bad news. That's just the way it is for all these fighters. He's bad news. He can fight, he's dangerous, and brings nothing to the table. So apart from the belt, and there's plenty of other belts out there that they can win these days. So I think they're all probably thinking they'll wait for someone else to beat him, and then we'll fight them then. Who knows? But Lubin was a sitting duck. Those Loma style peel and hooks were devastating. Yeah, they were, Andy. Barkram, the worst managed career in boxing today. Who the hell manages him? Yeah, it's Kathy Duva. Whoever it is, he needs to get a fight soon and then leave the clans he's with. Yeah, I've got a feeling that could be the case, Drew. But as I said before, with Eddie Hearn, with him promoting the Josh Kelly fight, he will have options, and that's to make sure that he has first dibs if they decide to go down the Murtazaliev route down the track. And if they don't, they can just say, yeah, well, we won't exercise our options. Paulo is fighting, this is Akuso, is fighting a 13-7 Indian on a neutral corner promotion on the 15th. Well, I don't think that's the homecoming that Paulo Akuso would have expected, Eminem. Coming back to No Limit. Didn't, of course, get a fight on their last show, and obviously not on the... Well, he still might be on the January show. But a 13-7 Indian. Wow. Well, obviously they've just thought, geez, we need to just get him a fight before the end of the year. So we'll just get him in with whoever they can, and we'll just get him a nice little Indy, and then he can feast upon and knock out in one round. And I'm sure George Roach / Don King will talk it up that he's back. So he hasn't fought, I don't reckon, for a year, Paulo Akuso, since he beat, Clay Waterman. Yep, that was this time last year. So if you fight Barkram, you also got to deal with that 10-pound rehydration clause. Yes, you do, the IBF one. Yep. G'day, is that Trumpy Black? G'day to you too there, mate. Big J, if Tim does the green route of winning the IBO belt and fights nobody and has been defending his belt like he's already been doing, I couldn't criticise that as much. I couldn't criticise that as now I expect nothing. Yeah, good call, Big J. Hard to have your expectations let down if you don't have any expectations in the first place. Foot it. Got a newfound respect for Tim Zhu. ZOO. Yep. After watching his vlogs, he's actually a natural in front of the camera. Very genuine. Yeah, he's been actually pretty good on social media, hasn't he? Tim Zoo. What do we got there? I can't pronounce your name there, mate, but I appreciate your comment. What do you say there? Really appreciate your consistency and insightful information. I've become a big fan of tuning in for my boxing updates. No worries at all there, mate. Really appreciate that. Just give you my opinion best I can. All right, Drew. At some point, Barkram needs to put his own foot down and just fight someone, regardless if it's Krusty the Clown, Donald Trump, or Eric Crumble. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, though, Drew, as I'm sure you're aware. The managers and promoters hold all the hand, and it's not all their fault, by the way. They've probably been doing the best they can, but just no one wants to fight him for their own business reasons. Adam, I think Nikita will have a better career than Tim will ever have. Okay, only time will tell based on Nikita having more mongrel and more punching power. He has one punch knockout power. Tim doesn't. We'll see, Adam. I just think, I don't know, I still worry about Nikita with his defence. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you might be right, but at this stage, got to disagree. I still think that Tim will have a better career, but we'll see. What's this Trump? So which way the interim title should be called? Image World Champ. Yeah, maybe interim champ. Just forget the interim champ. Trumpy, just make them the #1 challenger, mandatory, and make the champion fight them next. This whole interim thing, it's just about collecting more fees, I think. Drew, Fathy needed Sam Kekovich to point him in the direction of the good lamb. Yeah, I can't believe he's gone with that. Fair income. J Beebs, how are you, J Beebs? His Lomas 18-3 misleading pro resume. His impact can be found in today's fighters' footwork. Casuals love highlighting the losses, forgetting he's a featherweight fighting giants all post prime. Yeah, it is a bit misleading. It's hard to believe, J Beebs, that he had. When did he turn pro? Was it 2012 or 13? I'll see if I can bring him up. Sometimes if you spell his name wrong, because you can spell it a few different ways. So yeah, 18-3, 21 fights. He turned pro in 2013. So in a 11-year career, because he had the last fight last year, 11 years to have 21 fights. So not even 2 fights a year. Pretty crazy. Yeah, his impact is all over boxing at this stage, J Beebs. I know they all talk about the Mayweathers and Pacquiao's and all Canelos, but a lot of fighters, and you could do worse than trying to learn off Loma. Just don't try and be Loma. That's another little bit of a tip if you're an amateur fighter out there or pro fighter. Take a lot of things from fighters, but don't try and be them, okay? Because you never will be. So just take out little things like the footwork and defense and all that sort of stuff. Just don't try and be them, okay? But yeah, it is misleading, J Beebs, and what a fighter he was. Was that Jai versus Benavides, the winner fights Bivol? Yep. Hilton, how are you, Hilton? Hilton Kyle. We need to see more cards in the future, like the Sandler Bruner event. Solid domestic matchups. Build the sport in this country. Why is No Limit Tasman following suit with 50-50 fights? Good question, Kyle. I don't know. Especially No Limit. They've got all the resources in the world, and they just put on A-side fights. They don't have 50-50 fights like they used to, by the way. They just have all one-sided A-side fights, and people are cotton onto it now, aren't they? So it's Carl, the Crocodile Hunter. How are you, mate? Good to see Virgil in the position to call a few shots. Hope you're good, mate. Hope you're too as well there, mate. Thanks for tuning in. All right, I've got a couple more. We've got about 7 minutes to go. Have I lost my way there? Hang on. All right. Jai at cruiserweight is heavier than light heavyweights Benavides and Bivol. Only way Jai involved in either fights is if Benavides and Bivol went up to meet him. Yes, that's correct. Andy? All right, J Beebs. I think a prime Errol Spence dominates today's 154 with maybe the exception of Boots. Well, they're very similar fighters, aren't they, really? Prime Errol Spence. Well, it's a hypothetical, though, J Beebs, isn't it? I mean, who knows what a prime Errol Spence could have done at 154. I still think he would have struggled with guys like Ortiz and that back then, to be honest. But, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, in his prime, very, very good fighter, Errol Spence. Very, very good fighter. But you would think that Boots, who's almost a mirror image of Errol Spence, would give him the most problems, like you said there. But I suppose we'll never know, will we? Carl says, I tell you what, fellas, I'm keen as to see this Opetaia Shinkara card. Some good Aussie talent across the card. The problem is, though, Carl, is that the A side is fantastic. The B side, not so much. But who knows? We might get a few surprises. What do we got there? What's that, David? Tim, the Rockdale Rocket Zoo. Is that where he's from, is it? Rockdale. The Rockdale Rocket. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Tim, the Rockdale Rocket Zoo. Carl, tiramisu. Not bad. I still like Tsunami for me. All right, Carl, about time we got Lara versus Janabek. Only took 3 years. Yeah, I think it'll be worth it, Carl, when it happens. And I think it's one of the best fights out there at this stage. Yep, of some really good fights to be made, and I'm glad that's one of them that has been made. All right, Sam. Tim beats himself. He always worried to wipe his nose. Yeah, he had a little bit of the tick, didn't he, Sam, where he likes to wipe his nose. No, look, I'm not sure he beat himself, Sam. I just think, unfortunately, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes fighters or athletes or whatever it might be just aren't as good as maybe what we thought. And that's, I don't like to say it about Tim because I'm an admirer of his and what he's done. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of a naysayer. I just don't think he was ever at the level. And unfortunately, Fundora and Barkram Murtazali, I've sort of proved that. But you never know. You never know. Look, he's got a whole new management team, training team, new nickname, all that sort of stuff. So you just don't know. I really hope he does get back. But I've got to take off the rose-coloured glasses. I've been an Aussie, like a lot of people over the years, have just, Tim's some sort of god or whatever. And unfortunately, he showed in the fights with those guys that maybe he wasn't at the level. Let's hope we're wrong or I'm wrong and he can come back and make amends and get back there. But, geez, it's going to be tough. It's the worst possible division to try and rebuild yourself, fair income. So, all right. Is Errol and Jamel returning to mix without tune-ups after long layoffs? Is it realistic? Do you think Jamel can squeeze down to 154? 154 has a lot of eyes and appears popular at the moment. I've got my doubts, Andy, that Jamel can get back to 154. Of course, he went up to 168. I think he would be looking at more at 160. Although you never know. Maybe he did make the weight quite easily when he was at 154. I don't know. But I think he's got a lot better chance to come back than what Errol Spence has. I think. He hasn't been knocked around anywhere near as much as Errol. Lost the fight to Canelo, but didn't really take a lot of punishment in that fight. So I think he's got more of a chance to return, maybe even without that tune-up that you mentioned there. What's that, Ryan? I love it when there's 30 minutes left on the pod and has to breeze through his answers. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Well, I talked too much early in the show, so I've got to start looking at the clock and start sort of going through them really quick. No worries, Drew. Great show. 5th favourite thing in life after my wife, daughter, Sydney Swans and Manly Seagulls. Good. Hey, don't even bring up the Sydney Swans on this channel, Drew. You can take that bloody curly-headed bloody prick with you, Charlie Curnow. You can have him. Nah, it's good. The Swannies, they'll be a lot better next year, that's for sure. I don't really know much about the Manly Sea Eagles. I'll just say go the mighty Melbourne Storm. What do we got there? I've got, what do we got? A couple more. What's that? Trumpy, hey, mate, who was the young Murray fighter? Tim versus Mendoza card where he's fought a 4-round fight. Good question. Let me have a look. I'll be able to tell you. Tim Zoo. On the Mendoza card, was it? Hang on, Box Rec. We've got to pull him up. They haven't updated his nickname yet. He's still the Soul Taker. I can't remember anyone named Murray. Was it the heavyweight? Trumpy? Where are we? No, still come. All right, what was his name? There's no one on the undercard with the name Murray, I don't think. No, on that card anyway. I haven't got time to go through it all Trumpy black, but I don't know. All right, couple more. Janabek Lara should be lit. Janabek is a beast, but Lara is a sneaky boxer, puncher nowadays, setting traps and finding success in counter KOs. Not working too often, though. No, I just think Janabek will be a bit much for Lara, Andy, I think. Still with Andy, Jamal shot at Bud is only possible through beating Adames for 160-pound WBC. Yeah, geez, these are all guys from almost yesteryear, aren't they? Jamal Charlo and Errol Spence and these types of guys. All right. Yeah, Andy, Tim the Tiger, don't mind that one. And Kiwi Brew, appreciate it. No worries, guys. Well, that's going to do it now. Look, I forgot to actually mention at the start of the show, but this is the last show for a couple of weeks. I'm actually heading away on Friday for a couple of weeks. So I should have probably mentioned it earlier in the show. So I'm not quite sure whether I'll be putting up the updates on YouTube. It is a family... What's that there? Murray fella isn't Indigenous. Oh, sorry. I forgot about that. Sorry, Andy. But yeah, it is a family sort of getaway. So I'm not sure whether I'll do what I did last year and put up daily updates like I did. I'm not sure how many people sort of were interested in what we were doing, but I will be taking a lot of videos anyway for my own keepsake. But yeah, so I'll be away for 2 weeks from this Friday, the 14th of November. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks after that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have an awesome week. Don't forget to tune in to Walking Boxing every day. It's normally up by about sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock. Also on Spotify. And thanks to everyone that tunes in live and also after the fact. So, guys, have a great week, and we'll catch you when I'm back in a couple of weeks' time.